We are so fortunate to have another keynote speaker this morning, and I was hoping that Chris Johnson and Leonard Zimmerman could come up. Here we go. So I will, with no further ado, Chris Johnson, who is our Director of Communications at the Georgia Mental Health Consumer Network, is going to introduce Leonard. Thank you, Chris.
My name is Chris Johnson. I am the Director of Communications, as Sherry just told you. I'm repeating her because I found out I was introducing Leonard around 20 minutes ago, and I still don't know what I'm going to say as I'm standing here. I have known Leonard for about 20 years, and our stories of recovery and wellness sort of do this. We're at different places in our lives, but have always been in touch and have been close. The way Leonard ended up here is, as I started working with the network last November, I went around to all the peer support wellness and respite centers, and I saw art everywhere. Art and creative expression was a part of every place that we go. And I saw the work that the CPS project in Cimarron, PA, and everyone does, and I remembered some of the wonderful performances that the Rice Theater has done that I've seen, and I said, what is that connecting with? And then I saw a documentary about Leonard's life at a film festival in Atlanta last year, and I said, that's what's connecting, is that for a lot of us, art and creative expression is a big part of our path to wellness and recovery, and I hope you all hear something that means something to you, because Leonard means a lot to me. So Leonard, come do your thing.
Hello, I'm not a paid actor, and getting up here and talking to people really scares the crap out of me. So now we have that out of the way. And they gave me a clicker, which is cool. So I'm going to try not to get distracted because I suffer from sparkles. First slide, just to set the tone. So, who the hell is this guy? Leonard Porkchop Zimmerman, middle name's really Paul, but I put Porkchop in there so it was longer, a junior. But, it makes it easy so people don't confuse me with my dad. So, speaking of, that's my mama, my daddy, that's me without a beard, and that's my sister. So Nona, Leonard, Charmaine, and Leonard. No confusion there. When I was a kid, I grew up on a dead-end road. I was a normal kid, and there was no other kids on the block except my sister and I. And so I kind of had to fend for myself, and I kind of got into a lot of stuff. I was really curious. My mom tells stories of how she would have to put something next to the washing machine so that I could watch it spin, because I was just fascinated by it. And I remember too that when I would go visit my grandmother, I never could comfortably leave her house unless I brought something, and I used to always want to bring the vacuum cleaner home. True story. Speaking of getting into things, so there I am popping out of the trash can. I had a normal school life, I guess. I went to a private school for the first 5 years, and I was always into the art stuff. Art. If I wasn't paying attention, obviously wasn't paying attention, I was drawing. And even though that got me into trouble, it often kept me out of trouble because my parents would let me draw during church. So while they're, standing and kneeling, I was sitting there on the kneeler drawing, usually distracting the other people watching or paying attention in church. Let's see. Oops, jumping forward. Spoiler. So I went to a public middle school, and then I was able to go to Davidson Fine Arts Magnet School, and that's where I was really focused on the arts, and I had a teacher who really cared and all that. But I remember it was at an early age, because I was in middle school in the 80s. So I I remember my sister went to day camp, no, she went to a summer camp. She was a camp counselor at a Girl Scout camp and came home with an Amy Grant album called Unguarded, which had 4 different album covers. And when I went to the mall to go get my own copy, I was just like, which one do I get? So, and I couldn't get them all. And I think I ended up getting the one where she's playing the air guitar. At that moment, I knew that I wanted to be a graphic designer when I grew up. So I went to Davidson Fine Arts Management School, and that is Miss Stutz, my art teacher, the one who like always was looking out for me. And she made sure that I was always busy. And you know, she took the time to pay attention to me, but I paid attention to everybody. But she saw that this was what my brain was always doing. And so she taught photography and painting and drawing. So I was a sponge just trying to get all of that from her. And she saw this one photograph that I had taken. But I found a mannequin in an alley in downtown Augusta. And I took a photo of it. And it was just, and this is just natural light. It popped up against the side of the house. Took a picture, developed it, etc. And it got entered into a photography contest at the Savannah College of Art and Design. And I won a scholarship because of this. I mean, I think I was in 11th grade at that point, so that's just, you know, to get a scholarship and you're not even trying, you're just doing what you're doing because you're enjoying it. That was like the cream on top of the, cream on top of that? Yes, thank you. I always am mixing my analogies. I'm not the sharpest brick in the wall. So then I went to the Savannah College of Art and Design, and I know Chris from there, because we both worked there at certain points. And I graduated, after 4 years, I graduated with honors. And I say that, and it's not, I don't, words, make sense, okay. I'm not like the smartest person, but when it comes to art, and it's something, I think it's for anybody, when it comes to something that you enjoy and that you love, you just can blow it away. And that was, so, and also when I went there, they thought I was there for photography, but I knew I was there for graphic design. So I studied them both, but then I graduated with a BFA, Bachelor of Fine Arts, in graphic design. And I went on to do some freelance album covers. This was right out of college. This was me working in my field, but in real life, I was working at Blockbuster Video and Tape Roll, so not exactly in my field. So now, this is keeping it real, and sorry those photos were stolen from the World Wide Web. I didn't have Anyway, but luckily, while I was working at Tape World, someone at SCAD came to me and said that they had an opening in the Docutech department at Design Press, and that was a place that did the graphic design for the school. And I was, of course I went and got the job. So I was able to, after probably 3 months, maybe 3 months of working at Docutech, which is basically a big Xerox machine. After doing that, I became a graphic designer at SCAD, doing work for the school, which I was in my field, and that's was the important thing, is I need to stay in my field. So, boom. But then I got a job offer in Savannah. So I worked and lived in Savannah, but this new job, there'd be a commute. I'd have to go from living in Savannah to driving to the end of Hilton Head every day and then driving back. And that's like an hour or so drive. And that's in season or off season. In season is when all the tourists are there, which is like 75% of the year. And so it'd be a lot longer drive. And then the other 25, it'd be, oops, sorry. Always turn off your phone when you're doing the public. I'm so professional. Let's see. I totally threw it over. So I was making job changes, or actually the first job change was a really smart one because it got me in front of, I had really big clients at that point. And I think, all right, I'm pretty much fresh out of college, doing graphic design, and my second job in the field leads me to working with people like Smirnoff, Jose Cuervo. I mean, kind of big Six Flags. I got to do stuff for Six Flags. So that was pretty awesome. And then there were like awards that came of all that because of the Addy Awards and everything. But it was because of high-profile clients that I started to get recognition. And so it just kind of felt like all of this was being thrown at me. But I felt like because of my education and what I thought I was supposed to be doing, making more money, etc., that this was going to lead to happiness because that's what leads to happiness, I thought. So, let's see. So what happened? I did a few more job changes. I got another title. I was climbing that ladder, blah, 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 blah. So everything was going well. And I really wasn't much happier, and the work wasn't any better, but I was climbing that ladder. And then one day, I logged on to AOL.com, went into a chat room, and this is the abbreviated story. I met someone who was going to come to Savannah, and then I was going to go to Atlanta a few weeks later. And so we're like, let's meet. And that's when I met Brian. That's Brian, and that's me still without a beard. And we dated for a year and a half. And basically, after a year and a half, a long distance commute back and forth. Oh, by the way, this is the commute from Savannah to Atlanta. It's 4.5 long, tedious hours one way. We're kind of like watching Gone with the Wind. So, after a year and a half of that, he gave me an ultimatum. He said, you're moving here or I'm moving there. And to me, that was the easiest ultimatum ever because I was moving to Atlanta. So, moved to Atlanta. We had basically the 2.5 kids. Well, we had 2 cats and a dog. We had a house, a yard, everything. And I'd even changed jobs a few more times and had a better title, and everything was looking really good. And then after, I would say it was after about 8 years of happiness, he ended up going into the hospital and was the 1% who didn't respond to the treatment for cryptococcal meningitis and passed away. And that's kind of where everything falls apart in the story. Because everything that made sense and everything that I had been taught or thought, nothing made sense. Everything was completely upside down at this point. And all the money and titles and all that stuff just gone. And any drive I had at this point was completely, my world was turned upside down, and it still gets me, but this is when we go to chapter 2, and this is when I learned to make lemonade, which is a really cheesy way of saying I just had to completely start over, and this is where it all starts over. Find a creamy caramel center, find a creamy caramel center. I had to move back to Augusta. And so I grabbed the dogs, the cats, we packed everything up, got rid of a whole lot of stuff, said goodbye to Atlanta, and I started over. And it looked like Spike is smiling in the car. I love that picture. Everybody's just like, I'm going somewhere different. And it took us and I moved into my parents' old house, and I took a job at a place called Phoenix Printing, and I'd had like a nice fancy title and all that before. Now I was just a graphic designer, and nobody really cared what I did as long as I was there for those 9 hours a day and did my job. And to be honest, that's exactly what I needed. I didn't need any attention. I just needed to have a job where I could just go through the motions. And I did, but also I grabbed my sketchbooks because that was the one thing I hadn't been doing since, but even before moving to Atlanta. I didn't need to draw. I didn't need to paint. I didn't feel like I needed any of that. And so I would take my sketchbook and I would go sit in the coffee shop and I would sit there after work every day and draw and draw and draw. And I would be there from, let's see, I got out of work at 5 o'clock, so I'd be there from 5:30, maybe 9 o'clock every day. And I had sketchbooks full, just I had stacks of sketchbooks. I have a bookshelf at home and I keep them all lined up, not really in any order, but just the fact that there are a bunch of sketchbooks there, all filled with everything. And I was able to literally get it out of me, physically, out of my body, out of my arm, through the finger and those pencils onto the page, and then I would work through the emotions that I was dealing with because there was a lot bottled up in here. And so I put this one slide up here because it's something that I never talk about, but I feel with y'all, I can put this out there, but I would use symbolism and imagery in what I was painting. And whenever I showed a jar with something in it, that was, I was asked at one point to do a page in a coloring book. And for the page, the title was A Promise I Won't Keep. That's it right there. And whenever I put a bottled up lightning bolt, that would be in drug use because that's the way I had dealt with things in Atlanta after Brian died. I self-medicated heavily just to be able to get through the day. And what I say, when you postpone dealing with emotion, it's always waiting for you. And that's the symbolism I use for my drug use. But these are just some of the things that I would draw in my sketchbook, like the moon looking at the robot on the desk. That's I hope you're looking down at me, but not down on me. Anyway, so as you can see, there's a lot of heavy stuff in those early sketchbooks. I've been also dealing with, I ended up doing this one painting series where we talked about, it was called Love Stories, and it was, the title of this was me falling asleep watching that movie I Wanted to See with my head on your shoulder. It's always long, busy titles like that, but it was the little things in life that I realized I missed, the little love things, like the person you love falling asleep on you, or you falling asleep on them when they're watching a movie that you wanted to see. So anyway, it's things that would tick you off, but if you look back, it's really kind of sweet. So, now there should be another chapter marker right here. But after all of this, working through stuff and literal years of painting and drawing, I'm just like, okay, I've been a graphic designer. I've now proven myself as an artist in town. How can I mix those, and how can I use my superpowers as a graphic designer for good? And so I decided if I was going to advertise something, what so succinctly could I advertise? And I was like, well, smiles are contagious. If you can get someone to smile, they'll smile at somebody else. And so maybe I can, I made a poster that said smile, and I was in a bad mood that probably just ticked me off. So maybe I should remind them of happiness. If I can put the thought or emotion in somebody's head, then that might make them smile because they're genuinely thinking of something that makes them happy. So boom, I made a few posters, put them up in downtown Augusta, and then I noticed they started disappearing. And, well, you know what? I'll just make more. So I did. And I put them up downtown, and then I found out through social media, people were taking them home. They weren't throwing them away. So then I was like, well, what's the next step in this? And then I was like, what else can I buttons? Oh, buttons. And hopefully everybody here got a button, a happy button. So I started making the buttons because they're pretty inexpensive, and I just started leaving them places. or putting them around downtown. Or if I went to a restaurant, I give the waiter or waitress a button with their tip. And then the next thing was, I was like, all right, I need to kick it up another notch. Stickers. So I made stickers, and they were a little pricier, but you know what? If I did it every once in a while, it was fine. And so I remember my first trip to New York, I put a sticker on everything. So all right, so we've already done posters, buttons, stickers, and it's like, what else can I do? And I remember it was Thanksgiving dinner, and I'm sitting there, and sorry, I did not pay for that stock yet, so that's why I still have a but that's Thanksgiving. So I remember it was Thanksgiving dinner, and I was with the parents, and I was just, tryptophaning out on all the turkey, and I'm just like, I wonder, billboards. Ooh. How do I do? But speaking of making connections and stuff, as a graphic designer, I'd already known people with billboard companies and all this, and it was just like, I'll send a message on Facebook. And laying on the couch, Thanksgiving Day, send a message on Facebook, the guy responded. And we met like the following week, and basically he said, since you're not advertising anything, since you're not selling anything, and I have some billboards that are just kind of sitting there, why don't we go ahead and I'll waive the fee. This gets cooler because I was able to set aside enough money to pay, because he said, I'll waive the rental fee, sorry for that smack, I'll waive the rental fee if you just pay for production. So I was able to pay for 4, and after I told some artist friends of mine this, they raised enough money, didn't tell me, went back to the guy and had 4 more put up. So at this point, there have been happy stickers all around the world, because I have a thing where, and it's on social media, and also on your button, there's a web address on the side, makemyporkchop.com, and if you go to that website, there's information on how, if you send me a self-addressed stamped envelope, and this is to anybody in the world, if you send me a self-addressed stamped envelope, I will put in that envelope stickers and send them back to you free. And so this is something I've just kind of done for years now, and it led to they're more like, and we've done different, like, we did the pink stickers for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I even had a hospital in town pay to have those done so that they could give them to people in their cancer center. So the crazy thing is that this goofy little robot with a light bulb on his head has really resonated with so many people, and it started with me putting 5 posters up in downtown Augusta, which then led to, remember when Prince passed away?
Yes.
I ended up making Purple Rain happy buttons to give to people because so many people were affected by it. Which then kind of leads to, there was a call in town for TEDx speakers because they wanted to do a TEDx show or thing in Augusta, and I was just like, I'll go ahead and fill this out. There's no way in hell they'll pick me. So after I got the notice that I was chosen, I realized I was going to have to go publicly speak. So, which kind of has led me to here. So it was January. What month were we in? No, it doesn't matter. Wrong year. It was January of 2004. 14. 2000. Anyway, this is me doing my first TEDx talk about the whole Happy campaign and how it had just snowballed into something that's still going. And all this is kind of heading somewhere, and I'm trying to get there as quickly as possible. But all of this just led to. That's Michael. Oh, and there I am with a beard. Finally the payoff. Michael McKinley, he had contacted me through Facebook or Instagram, and we have been friends on social media, and he said that he had an idea of how he could get happy to more people. And so he contacted, we actually had a physical phone call, and he laid out this plan of how he was sitting in his hotel room, and he was saying to himself, somebody needs to make a movie about this. And he heard an audible voice in the room saying, you need to. And he calls that getting the memo. And so he said he doesn't know if it was Brian or who it was, but he said he heard a voice in the room telling him he needed to do it. So he said, I will send you an email with everything laid out in it. And he did. And when I got to work the next day, there was an email. I put a little red flag on it in my inbox. And he said, take your time, just answer it when you're ready. Read it and answer it when you're ready. And so I waited, and every day I would go to work. And for a month, I went every day well, except for weekends. I went and sat down, opened my mailbox, and there's that little red flag saying, read me. And so finally I decided I should at least give him the courtesy of reading the email he has typed before I said, no, I don't want to do this. And I read the email and I said, yes. So there was a movie made, and this is the weird thing. I get up here and I talk and I'm scared, but I know, and this is what I've learned from my story, is that a lot of people have lost people they care about. A lot of people have had other things happen to them and get knocked down. And a lot of people have had their path set, they know what they're going to do, and all of a sudden, they can't that. But there are other things you can do. And I never expected that, some goofy little robot would open so many doors and so many things. And especially, I realized in my life that if I was going to be happy, I was the person who was going to have to make that happen, because nobody else is going to do it for me. Then I also, from that, understood that if I could help add some happiness to someone else's life, then that can just help them with theirs. So it's, so that's two scenes from the movie, and etc. But the whole point of that was, making a movie was easy. All I had to do was sit down in front of a camera for a little bit, and it's a lot less invasive than But I do not regret doing that, and I do not regret doing this today. And these are just some recap images, because, believe it or not, I'm close to the end here, and I think I've been talking long enough. Yeah. Sorry. I had a timer. I was supposed to have a timer going, but totally derailed myself. It happens. I think I recapped too, but I guess we'll just leave this in closing. But one of the things I've learned in life, or many, I guess I actually have learned, I've been alive 46 years, which doesn't even seem possible. But then again, it seems like I've been alive a lot longer. But, just, bless you, just do your best. And advice that Brian gave me, and yes, he was quoting Dr. Who, was have a fantastic life. So, thank y'all. Thank you.